Alright folks, just going to spend a few minutes talking about tactical survivalists, prepper types, and their EDCs. And I was thinking a little bit about it, and I've watched a couple videos lately, and it got me to thinking, and I actually remembered a time where somebody had actually made a video, maybe it was an Instagram post, I can't remember exactly what it was, and they were talking about how they had gone out for a meal. And when the waitress had brought them the check to sign for the meal, the waitress didn't have a pen. And they were like, well, because I'm prepared, because I'm a prepper, I whipped out my Fisher Space pen, or maybe it was a Hinderer Investigator pen or something like that, handed it over, and was able to sign the check. And then the person went on a little bit of a tirade about, how they were prepared and couldn't understand how other people cannot be prepared at a fundamental level, which includes carrying a pen around with them. And I remember I commented, and I said, you had somebody prepare a meal for you. What kind of prepper does that make you, right? Like, if you got to stop somewhere and you have to have somebody make a meal, make you a sandwich, maybe you should have packed one. Maybe you should be EDC in a sandwich. And, it was a little bit of a, you know what I mean, and you know what, I don't. So I work for a living, just like probably everybody who watches this video. And I don't always have a pencil or a pen on me. And you know what? I could easily see how somebody could set a pen down on a counter, or they could lend it to somebody, or they could have somebody else sign in a check and they didn't have one. And I don't think that I would think less of that person. So anyhow, I guess the real premise behind what I wanted to talk about today was the what ifs. Like these tactical survivalists are always, well, what if this happened? What if that happened? And what if this happened? And, it's easy to get caught up in that, right? Because you want to say, hey, I'm a person who can take care of myself and my family, and I want to make sure that I'm prepared. And I know that all of us like to be the guy that, oh, you can't open that package? Let me hand you my multi-tool. Oh, you can't cut that piece of twine or rope or whatever the heck it is? Let me hand you my knife. Everybody likes that, right? And oh, you need to light a birthday candle? Let me pull out my my torch. But I think it gets a little crazy, though, right? So you start to say stuff like, well, what if your lighter ran out of gas? 2 is 1, 1 is none, son. You need to have a flint steel. You need to have a live fire. You need to have a wet fire. It's easy to fall into that trap because I have, and actually some videos. This is what I would call my EDC pocket pouch, something like that. And I had a lighter in there, I had a steel in there, and I had a wet fire in there. None of it ever got used. Now, I'm talking about my daily routine. I'm not talking about, hey, I'm going camping, or I'm going hiking, or I'm going to go to a bonfire or a barbecue, where you actually have to have items that help you get through that particular activity. I'm talking about walking around every single day. And I think I mentioned this in an earlier video, I've never had to have 3 different types of fire. Never. I can see having more than one type of knife. Personally, I do see the point of having a medium-sized to large-sized tactical folder, something like this, as well as a sheeple-friendly EDC type knife that you can open up in front of kids and grandma and all that kind of stuff. But it starts to get crazy with the what ifs. And so recently, I was watching a video, and the guy was like, "What if you need to start a fire with one hand?" And they go through training and practicing a skill where you use your knife and you brace, and then you get your flint steel out, and you have to hope that it's dry and hope that your tinder is ignitable. And I was like, it's a whole hell of a lot easier to light the fire with a lighter than it is to position yourself where you may cut yourself. You may be using your weak hand to handle a knife and a flint steel. And it just doesn't make any sense. And so I don't buy the scenario where, what if your arms hurt, what if it's raining, and what if your lighter is out of fuel? It doesn't make sense. And in another conversation I had with a guy, it had actually degraded into, what if you're injured, what if you're trapped in a survival scenario, and what if you're blinded? and you're facing a hypothermic situation. That was the last piece of it. I think that practical thinking, I think that situational awareness and risk avoidance is probably a better case scenario. And I think that when you talk about most Americans, their daily routine and the life that they live, if and when shit hits the fan, people will have enough time to react in a reasonably appropriate manner where they're not going to be transported to the woods in a rainy situation with multiple injuries and limited and failing gear. I just don't buy it. I do think that you may face traffic jams. You may run into a scenario where there's no power. And so maybe homesteading or making sure that you have things like blankets, alternative energies, a generator, gas, batteries, and things like that makes more sense than carrying things and training for skill sets for scenarios that probably will never ever happen. Let's do a time check. We're at 6 minutes. So I'm not even 100% sure where I fall in the conversation. But really, I just think it's the whole, well, I know you have a flashlight, and that makes sense, and people should carry a flashlight, but, what if your batteries die? Then you need to have another set of batteries, and then, oh, well, that is a tactical flashlight, and you're going to need to have an EDC flashlight, which uses a different type of batteries. I don't know when enough's enough. I'm not an expert, and I don't profess to be. But I think that probably one flashlight, one knife or a multi-tool, and a couple of smaller EDC items is probably all everybody needs. Anyhow, that's it. I just wanted to get some ideas and throw some ideas out there, and I just really wanted to convey the whole, what if you're injured, what if this, what if that. I just think it's silly, and I don't think there's any value in it, and I think that it's a way that people can pretend to have a layer of expertise where you don't understand, son, because you don't understand the what ifs, and what if this and what if that, and it just seems to me that it's a whole big game of fairy tales and make believes and pretend. So anyhow, that's it, folks. Thanks.